You the inspiration? What got you started in the first place? Why did you think that you could do that?
Why did we think we could switch our voice, or why did we think we can do the show?
No, initial the first show. So when you first started out, what was the inspiration behind it? What were you guys thinking? You talked a little bit. You didn't want to be CNN. You didn't want to be. You want to be an alternative. And so what inspired you to create that?
I mean, well, the original show was made by Selena, and she started it in college with the I think the first year students program, and I came on afterwards. But then like shifting gears and wanting to double down on that was a couple of things. We Selena graduated in 2009. I graduated in 2010, and we're coming into a new America. You have the first black president. White folks are saying this is the post-racial America. We've entered the economy during a Great Recession. Black and brown folks have lost over 50% of their wealth, and we're starting at the bottom trying to find our way through our careers. And what we realized, because I think OS Spray gave us a bit of an inflated level of entitlement, but also an inflated level of confidence, was that like folks wasn't really trying to hear from us, and we had something to say, and it was valid. So maybe we didn't have the experience that everyone else does, but we had a lot of comments, and we knew what our people were talking about, and that thing still rings true. So now you're seeing more platforms and shows similar to what Selena and I were doing. But when we first came out, that wasn't there. You weren't seeing a show led by a black woman, a young black woman, and a black man talking about politics, talking about what's happening in Senate, connecting the way that the Beyonce album really builds up social justice. That wasn't happening. So honestly, we did it out of like desperation to hear ourselves.
Well, I would like to say that's one of the reasons why I feel that the show is so special because I like to see young people uh, discussing these subjects that need to be discussed. And when you have young people discussing these subjects, younger people will listen. You're able to reflect, and when you see who is talking and you're young and they're young, it's a better connection as opposed to an older generation. I've been to a lot of programs like with Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and you see a lot of seminars and you see older people, but the message is not getting to the young. So I'm very happy to have you on, Selena, and your crew to talk about Be Heard Talk. And also, Carl Clay from Black Spectrum. I would like to discuss something with you, Carl. What was it like when you started Black Spectrum Theater?
Wow. Well, Black Spectrum Theater now celebrating its 50th year of operation. When I started, it was a matter of, you know, uh, it was the late 60s, and there were things going on in the street, like I guess you can say, like they are now. And when I say going on in the street, I meant that there were a lot of protests going on. There was a lot of activity going on in the South with Black folks being water hosed in the streets of Alabama and Bull Connor, and all of the whole Jim Crow piece was coming to was not coming to a head, but it was being exposed. Let me put it like that. So, as a young person at that time, it was trying to express what I saw going on out there on television and in the street and in my school and so forth. And at the church I was going to, Trinity, at that time, there were other young people, very talented. And we kind of, came together, and I had a play that I wrote, and it was like, okay, well, you want to be in this play, that kind of thing. And the play was so sophisticated for our age group at that time that we were asked to take this play and do it all over Queens, at that time. And then it was during the summer, and after it ended, people, we had gotten a lot of props for doing this play, and we broke up and went our separate ways. But during that year, I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of reading about our history, about theater, and about the possibilities. And it just spawned all kinds of, I think, exciting ideas in my head. And that next summer we came back together. It was a very moving time because we put together a piece that I conceptualized and brought people and got them involved in. It was called Black Love. And way ahead of its time. And that really became the beginning of Black Spectrum Theater. And a few months later, we were all in one of our members' basements, and we said, well, look, do we want to stop here? Do we want to keep going? All those in favor of continuing, raise your hands. And everybody raised their hands and said, yeah. And that became literally the beginning of Black Spectrum Theater. Over the years, and I'll say this, our goal at that time it was a piece that I wrote that really kind of defined where we would go. And, it became a kind of a theme for where we took Black Spectrum. And that was, a spectrum is a wide range of frequencies or wavelengths that are emitted from a source. And from that source, we want to investigate every aspect of the African-American experience, to challenge, to change, to communicate, and use our art for social justice. Those are some of the themes that beginning statement spawned. And so 50 years later, I'm proud to say, just before COVID came, we were fortunate enough to bring back a production that we had originally started a theater with. I updated it and rewrote it, and a really exciting production called Black Love that we're really proud of. Since then, we've gotten into film. We have about 26 films under our belt, one feature-length movie. We've trained over 4,000 young people. We've put on over 400 plays, and right now we operate 3 after-school programs and 3 learning lab programs currently, and we have this online archival piece that we're doing during the COVID piece, during this whole pandemic, and it's called Black Spectrum Theater at Home Video Series. And what we've done is gone into our archives of over 100 different productions that we have on tape and presented those. So each month we present a series of 4 videos. So it's 5 months and 20 weeks worth of videos. Each week you get a new video. We're in the month of December, and we're showing a Funkin' for Jamaica, an event that took place down at the Bottom Line nightclub before it closed back in 2003, featuring some historic jazz artists. We have a piece called Doo-Wop Love, which is a walk down memory lane of 50s and 60s songs that became popular, and 2 Trains Running that we ran, that we won a Delco Awards for. That's an August Wilson play. And then we take a look back on the 70s with the theater and some productions that we did, The Prophecy and 2000 Black. So those are the things going on. We continue to be proud of our past and excited about the future, and we just can't wait to get back to what we do inside of a theater. I want to say congratulations. I was going to say congratulations to Be Heard, but to understand you guys have been doing this for 10 years, I just say, hey, listen, keep on keeping on. And that's a wonderful thing. And you're right to be so vigilant about making sure that your messages and your branding is in line with where you want to take your radio station. So my hat is off to you. I've always believed in young people and doing stuff. Sometimes old heads get in the way of stuff. And, listen, keep struggling on. And I can tell you, I never thought that I'd be doing this 50 years later. but I can tell you, you don't ever think about 50 years. You keep thinking about, wow, what can we do next? What we can do? What can we do to make it more exciting? How can we do this, or how can we break into this area or that area? So, that's the way we started, and that's what keeps us ticking, and we're going to continue to do stuff. And I think some groundbreaking stuff that we're still excited to do. It's a lot to be done.
Carl and Selena, I would like to ask you a question. What do you see? I mean, Carl, you from 40, 50 years ago, you laid the
I'm here now,
groundwork.
though. I'm here now, not just 50 years ago.
You laid the groundwork, Carl. Now you have Selena and you have Tammy and you have Fritz doing another form of communication. Where do you see it going? I mean, you took it to one level, Carl. Now Selena and her crew is going to take it to another level. Where would you like to see it grow?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're in two different mediums. Okay, they're in the broadcast medium. We're in the more in the visual and theater arts division. But I think what you're getting at is that there is a convergence point in which we all converge, and I think that that's what the future is presenting to us. That people are not just in their lanes anymore, so to speak. They are branching off into other areas. I mean, when we started, we were doing strictly theater, but I had made films. I was doing photography. And so I had the pleasure of working with Melvin Van Peebles, and they matched me coming out of a training program called Third World Cinema with somebody that was going down the same avenue as I was, and that was Melvin Van Peebles, because he was doing stage work and he was making films also. So that got me into that. But most theaters didn't do films. Today, you have theaters who are doing films, they're doing television. Today, you ask me where are things going? That's a good question. I'm going to quote the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Gibson, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Kenneth Gibson.
Kenneth Gibson, yes.
He said, "Wherever America is going, Black folks are going to get there first." Okay. And,
Okay.
I think that's true today. Wherever we're going, Black people are going to get there first. We're just, and I'm not coming from some kind of racial superiority or anything like that. We just socially seem to be, ahead a few steps in terms of how we absorb stuff. And so, I think we go as far as our imagination can stretch. And that means that's everything. I think the convergence of theater and film and broadcast and mixed media and visual arts and all those things and digital connections are going to merge in so many different ways going into the future. And I think we're experiencing it now. And that, in effect, will collide with life, if you know what I mean. We were all
Yes.
headed somewhere, all of us. We were all headed somewhere, and then boom, out of nowhere comes COVID-19. So everything we have collided with that. Now, if somebody would have told me for all the years that we ran a theater, we always made safety copies of all of our productions. We put them on video. And I just assumed they'd stay in an archive, and one day somebody'd open it up and look at some of the things that we did. But lo and behold, here's COVID, and it became an opportunity for us to present this archival video series digitally to our audiences. So I didn't know that would happen, but we somehow had prepared, unbeknownst to us, we were preparing for the future. So I think that's where we're headed. I think we're going to use our imagination. We're going to use what's going on in life in our communities to develop new programs for them. They're talking about Be Heard. I think that's a great name, and I like the way you went from one, facet of it and said, no, let's rethink this and take it to Be Heard. I think that's a wonderful name, and I think it really capsulizes exactly where you're going. As soon as you hear that, you say, wow, okay, yeah, Be Heard. That's what it is. So I think that's hip. I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with developing partnerships and strategic alliances with other forms of media. Now I'm just
Well,
now
that's why I'm trying to do this at this
Yeah.
present time, trying to bring
I'm
everybody together.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm going to use my creativity on the spot. Creativity. I'm saying I don't see why you can't do remote, broadcast. A play ends and you interview the actors as they come off stage. From backstage. I don't see a reason why, you can't go and become socially justice progressive by talking to the voters in the next coming election, because there's going to be a mayoral election coming up. And that's going to be, and a lot of people, they forget about elections right now. They're just thinking about, oh, well, that's over. No, it's really never over. So people are going to run for mayor. And I know one of the things we always felt is that our candidates somehow are picked for us. All of a sudden you get in the election time, people say, oh, well, so-and-so is running. Well, okay, that's nice, but did anybody ask them to run, or are they just running because they feel, and both are valid. You can feel like you have something to offer and you want to run. But by the same token, maybe that process should start earlier. And, especially in our community, we tend to, come to the party late sometimes. So I think that's important.
At this point, I would like to ask Selena a question. And the question is, I know you cover all aspects of media, which is you cover politics, you cover entertainment, you cover sports, I know. And so where do you see yourself, Selena, with your crew, with Stanley and Tammy, going?
Your mic isn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lady Pauline. I am a full-time journalist, so it does allow me to work in all those different mediums. But yeah, I see the show continuing to evolve. Again, we started off as a radio show, then we became a podcast first type of show, and now we are a live streaming talk show. So now that we see the surgence of digital media and how it's really taken over a lot of our lives, I see us really dominating that space, continuing to be a voice for historically marginalized groups and voices, and continuing to let people and let their voices be represented. I actually want to throw it over to Tammy as well, being the newest member of our team and the spiciest. I would love to get her thoughts on where she sees Be Heard going.
Thank you, Selena. So part of Be Heard's rebrand, which is honestly part of why I think they selected me, thanks y'all, is that we want to be able to pass the baton in a way. Like, Be Heard does a lot more than just be Black in media. We cover Black politics, we cover Black issues, but most importantly, in my opinion, as an organizer, is we mobilize Black people on Black issues. So we educate them, we inform them, we empower them. That's our motto. Because of the way that the world is changing, I'm in my 20s, my mid 20s, and everything is social media based. Every campaign is fast moving. It is multifaceted. Our show is kind of replicating that. So we use social media even analytics to boost engagement so that we can educate the masses as much as we can. In addition to having a show, we also are an umbrella brand. So Be Heard is a sponsor of several other podcasts and blogs, including Let's Not Be Trash, which is a male feminist blog and podcast as well. And we support writers, artists, and other initiatives within the umbrella. As of right now, from what we've been talking about, we've been doing well in podcasts. We've been doing very well in streaming, especially with our Black Enterprise partnership. But we want to continue to open up on different mediums like social media, blogging. Stanley is going to continue to work on Let's Not Be Trash by writing and blogging. And recently, I want to plug his venture, the Sucker for Love mixtape series, which is a combined writing and playlist initiative. So we're really looking to connect with the future generations in all different sorts of umbrellas where they feel the most comfortable.
Tammy, what would you say is your target market? Who are you looking to reach out to, and who would you like to grow? How would you like to grow your market?
So I'll give a little answer for this and then throw it back to Selena, because I feel like as the founder, I really want her vision to be respected. But we have always been a show for Black millennials, i.e. the Black youth and Black young adults. I feel like as we've grown, we are including the Gen Z generation, you know, the people that are now starting to vote, now starting to be interested in campaign work. However, we do also appeal to audiences that are middle-aged as well, because they have policy issues, and we work with a lot of people who have been on the ground already for several decades. That is sort of our overarching demographic. Selena?
Yes, Tammy was absolutely right. You know, when we started the show, back when we were called Let Your Voice Be Heard, we were a multicultural show. And again, when we decided to rebrand, we knew that we wanted to be intentional about not just representing Black voices and other historically disenfranchised communities, but making sure that we were opening up that space. So we were really intentional about making sure our next co-host, Tammy David, was a Black woman. That's what we wanted. And not only that, but Tammy also represents views on the LGBTQ community. And that's what we really wanted as well. And I do actually want to throw it to Stanley, because he played an instrumental role when it came to audience outreach and really just shaping the branding part. So Stanley, what would you add to that?
You know, I think one of the most important things to think about when you think about media in general is that, you know, the way that we take in information now and the way we engage with people has shifted significantly. But if we're really looking at it, it's going back to the basics. And the basics are folks just want a venue where they can have a back and forth conversation. And as the podcast and the radio show has grown, you know, one of the things we've been looking for is just like, what are the platforms and the venues that are going to give us the space and the freedom to engage in a real way? So we started off on a radio show because that was the platform that we thought was the way to go. And we do that for a long time. But, you know, as people who do this work, if you're paying attention to the industry, you're seeing the shifts. So then we switched to podcasts. But then we noticed that like people are also engaging a lot on social media. And we want to find a way to make it easy as possible for our listeners to talk with us. And we moved to Facebook Live as well. And I think it's when we did that, we really started to understand, A, who was watching the show in a real way, but B, what they looked like and what they cared about. And once you got those two, the A's and B's, it made it much easier to, one, understand what kind of show you had to craft, and two, understand why people were coming to the show to begin with. And a big piece of why they came to the show was that the fact that they like us. They like us. They like what we had to say. They like our point of view on things. And we also have a lot in common in how we see the world and how we engage in it. And if that's the case, how do we maximize
Stanley, I'm going to ask you a question. And we're gonna go pay some bills. But working with these two powerful women, as a brother, what would you recommend, and how has it been for you? So I'm gonna give you a moment as we go pay some bills. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Black Spectrum Theater, Carl Clay is on, and we've talked a little bit about his offerings, his many offerings. This month, we've got December 18th, we've got the 70s, December 24th and 20th and 26th, we've got Funking for Jamaica. In January coming up, we've got Ali on, and all these events are on a Friday. So January 8th, we've got Ali. On the 15th, we've got 2000 Black, The Prophecy. And on January 22nd, we are Once Upon a Lifetime. Very interesting. And then, of course, we've got on the 29th, A Conversation with Vivica A. Fox. Now, you may be wondering, how do you find out about it? Well, you go to www.blackspectrum.net, select your season pass 2020-2021, and you can choose your payment method, or you can call during the week 718-723-1800, and that's from 10 to 6 p.m. during the week. So you can call and get more information on that. Back to you, Mr. Stanley Fritz.
Sure. I mean, honestly, if you respect strong leadership, then like it's not hard. I've been working with Selena for 10 years. I feel like I know her better than most people. I know her working style. I know what she cares about. I know my strengths and I know her strengths. Selena is the unequivocal leader of this team. And it's not just because she founded the show, and it's not just because she has the education, she went to school to major in this, but it's the way that, like, one, how much she cares about the show, the approach that she puts into it, the work that she puts into it, the way that she thinks about it. And Selena's a good leader because she's somebody who will listen to your ideas and your opinions and wants your feedback. She makes it very collaborative, but at the end of the day, she's the one that gets to pull the trigger, and I trust her a lot, and I know she's making decisions for the best of the show, so it's comfortable. And Tammy is just like brilliant, energetic, quick-witted, so full of like great facts and analysis. You know, a lot of times, especially with Tammy's coming on the show, like I found myself taking a bit of a back seat because before Tammy, I was a bit of the firebrand on the show. But Tammy is so talented and like has so much potential. It's been really kind of easy to step back and just take it in and then engage with her. So for me, it's you know, as someone who like, I work in politics, you work with a lot of people. This is one of my favorite teams to work on. I feel the most fulfilled here. I feel the most supported here. And like, I feel like we got something good.
Well-
All right. That sounds really wonderful. Selena, I want to ask you something. I know you work at Black Enterprise and you're a digital editor. What is that exactly that you do?
Absolutely. So, and first of all, thank you, Stanley. I really appreciate that. You know, I have the best team in the world working with people like Stanley. And again, Tammy is definitely very fulfilling for me too. I learned so much for them, not just what we do on the show, but just when it comes to leadership, when it comes to collaboration, when it comes to ideas. So I do want to just throw that out there. So at Black Enterprise, I am the digital editor. So what that means is I'm an editor, but I do most of my editing online. So that means, you know, Black Enterprise is a legacy brand. I know we all remember the magazines, but we slowly had to phase those out because as the industry has shifted to more online, so has Black Enterprise. So now we get tons of articles each day that has to go up on the website. So what my job is to do is to edit the articles, do top line edit and copy edit. I also do the SEO, meaning that they are search engine optimized so that they are reaching, you know, people across the internet. I do that. I also do a lot of writing online. I also do a lot of celebrity interviews. Well, not just celebrity interviews, but also a lot of business luminaries. I interview them. And again, a lot of that goes online. So when Black Enterprise started, We had like 4 or 5 different facets. We had the TV show, which you guys probably remember, Our World.
Yes.
Exactly. We had the magazine, we had our events, and then we had the digital component. So that is where my job really comes into play when it comes to making sure the website and the articles, everything is on point. And I also want to say that earlier this year, I pitched, conceptualized, produce and host a new show. It's called The New Norm with Selena Hill. It streams on all of Black Enterprises social media outlets. And on that show, I interview a range of people about how they're adapting to the new norm after, obviously after COVID 2020 has hit us, and also the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I had a chance to speak with people like Kevin Hart, Senator Kamala Harris, weeks before she was announced the VP pick, Tia Mori, one of my favorites, Karuchi Tran. So again, most of everything I do as a multimedia journalist, it's streamed on digital, it's streamed online. So the term digital editor really encompasses everything that I do online.
Oh, all right. That sounds wonderful. I've always been very interested in your career. And where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, Selena?
Absolutely. So I'm a person who thinks you should dream big, go after go after the stars, or I think it's go after the moon, maybe you'll land on a star, whatever it is. But it's so funny because when Stanley and I relaunched Let Your Voice Be Heard after we graduated, the goal was to become a multimedia outlet that would be a competitor of CNN and MSNBC. We wanted to be that voice for Black and brown folks, young folks, millennials, etc. So, and that was always the goalpost. Obviously, things shift and as we evolved, but I've always been someone who says I want to inform, educate, and empower people that look like me. Because when I was coming up watching the news, and I loved the news, I didn't see my representation. I didn't see my voice. So as the media sphere and the landscape has shifted, I really see my place in being that staple and being that voice. I guess if you to help, if you want to like really imagine it, you can say like a young Oprah Winfrey if you want.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's something that you definitely are.
Oh, thank you.
You are.
So nice.
You're so special to this industry. Glenn.
Question. Wanted to find out if someone wants to get into this industry. I know that Selena, you've done studying, so you actually went to college for some of the broadcasting and marketing and promotion. But and I'm going to address it to all three of you, Selena, Stanley, and Tammy. What would you recommend a young person who maybe is in high school or has taken some college and is thinking about getting into this world? What would you recommend they do? How would they get into it?
Start now. I mean, we literally have all of the tools that major production companies had, 5 to 10 years ago. If you have a smartphone, you have a camera, you have editing tools, you have everything you need to start a production, whether that's a streaming TV, a streaming show, on-air show, whether that's a podcast, whether that's a blog, you have everything. So my advice is literally start now. You can also monetize now. You don't have to wait for a middleman. You don't have to wait to be hired. You can do everything you want to do now. You can build your own audience. You can communicate with them. You can sell products. So my advice is to literally just absolutely start now.
Okay, that's great. I just want to say you're listening to Our World, Our Power. Here, you can hear us on Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, and please don't forget to check us out on our Roku channel. It's called Our World, Our Power, and our show is on Saturdays from 4 to 5 here on Spotify, iTunes, and you can also check out our YouTube channel. Let's continue this conversation. Glenn, let's go back to you.
Well, I'm just very excited at the opportunity to meet you young folks that are making so many things happen. Um, going forward, how do you monetize a show? What are they looking for? Is it the analytics? Is it the number of people? Is that the only way to monetize a show? Because I'm sure there are a lot of folks out there who have podcasts, who have conversations, but the conversations aren't really going anywhere in terms of making them money. How do they do that?
Stanley?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways to monetize your podcast or any kind of like digital asset you're working on. But I would say one of the most valuable things you can do is build an email list for a couple of reasons. One, you want to be able to know who likes your show, and you want to make it as easy as possible for them to get it. So when you have an email list, you have a very direct way to communicate with people, and that should be free in my opinion. But also, if you have that email list and it grows, you can then sell merchandise. You can then offer like different packages for people to get engaged in. And then if you end up having a conversation with a larger publication or a platform that wants to work with you, when they're thinking about whether they want to work with you, they want to go off the metrics. You can then combine your metrics that you're using from podcasting or social media along with your email, and it gives you a larger number to negotiate with. But as long as you have an email list, you have a direct way to talk to your audience, and you'll always be able to be viable. So I would encourage folks who are doing this, create an email list, create a subscription list, make sure you have a very direct way to contact and communicate with your folks, because that is more valuable than any advertising dollar.
Carl Clay, I would like to ask you a question. What would you say to your younger self today?
That's a good question. I would say to never have any doubts about the future in terms of where your operation, your dream is going. I would say listen to that inner voice. I've pretty much always been a maverick, so I listened a lot. There's some things that I probably would do a little different, but that would be it. Just to continue to keep the faith, and don't get sidetracked. One of the things I can say as I listen to these young people talk about their program, and first of all, my hat is off to them. I see that they really like one another. They get along, and that's so important. It really is, and that means everything. There were times when I think I felt like I was by myself in it, and I think that's that's a thing. I like working with groups of people, and I think that's what's kept us going. I've always been a collaborative person, and I believe collaboration is the strongest card you can deal when it comes to, dealing with organization and people getting things done. So I like what I hear from them. I really do. I wish them the best. There's so many wonderful things to do. As they're talking, I'm saying, well, I'd love to interview them. I'm a filmmaker also. I do films, and I have quite a few. I'd like to interview them and let them do some things there. But I'd say they're gonna do some wonderful things. I just know it. And she hasn't talked a lot. Selena is obviously is the head of the ship, but I'm very impressed with Tammy. Just her presentation, and I agree with this brother that you notice Glenn, he didn't go into, well, as a Black man, I feel like the women need to do this, and he just told you exactly where they're coming from and how he felt about being a part of that, and it just seems so natural. So you don't have to get into the, the black man and the black woman, the da 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 da. It comes down to personalities and how they fit. And so I think that was brilliant what he said. I really do.
Well, it really speaks to partnership, and that's what I've
Yeah,
been
it really
hearing.
does. It really does.
I hear with these young folks, and I also hear it with you in terms of how you've been able to maintain 50 years. Because without the partnerships, you can't sustain it.
That's right.
One of the things that I'm interested in, because you guys are so varied in terms of sports, politics, and you name it. How do you decide what's going to be the leading conversation for a show?
Well, I think. Oh,
I
sorry.
can- So, one thing that Selena has been amazing about, which I'm really grateful to be able to work with her, we at Be Heard Talk have actually been ahead of the trends in terms of what is going to happen next on the news. So what we try to do is, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, we see what is happening and where, and then we try to connect with the movers and shakers on the ground. Or we see, some statement was made by someone in the NBA, and so we try to think about what that looks like for its corresponding movement. Basically, we pick topics based on not just our audience interest, but sort of general interest within our demographics. So we look at trending topics on social media, we look at what's being tagged, we look at what other news magazines are covering and not covering, so that we can both fill gaps and provide perspectives that are not being seen. But we basically track what is being talked about and how we can fill that in.
Excellent. One more question. Do you guys look at economic development? Do you look at developing entrepreneurial businesses? Do you have conversations of what's hot in the business world that our folks may be interested in or be able to get into?
Well, for the most part, Be Heard focuses on race, politics, and culture from an unapologetic Black millennial perspective. There have been times where we talked about, Black entrepreneurship and business, but for the most part, we do sort of, stay in that lane and make sure that we attack these issues from also incorporating hip hop in an urban perspective. So I kind of feel like that's where, our audience really likes to hear from us. That's what they expect from us each week. So that's where we sort of like stay. But I mean, what I do for Black Enterprise, obviously we focus on Black business and entrepreneurship there.
So
Okay,
those three
thank
areas
you.
are really your sweet spot then, huh?
Yeah. Glenn, it's time to pay those bills.
All right. So we talked about the Black Spectrum Theater, home theater. And again, for the remaining of this month, we've got December 18th, the 70s, December 24th and 26th, Funking for Jamaica. And then in January, January 8th, we have Ali. January 15th, we have 2000 Black, The Prophecy. January 22nd, Once Upon a Wife Time. And January 29th, A Conversation with Vivica A. Fox. Again, how do you get there? You go to www.blackspectrum.net, go for 2020 to 2021, and look for your payment method, or if you need to call up during the week, 718-723-1800, and call from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Back to you, Pauline.
Okay, Okay, well, we're about to wind down. I'd like to thank all our guests for coming on the show. Selena Hill, Stanley, Tammy, and Carl Clay. It was a pleasure having you all on talking about the old times and the present. So
And we want to
thank you.
interview you folks.
Sorry for the little delay, but you know, it was still a good show, and hope to talk to you all soon.
Everybody, God bless
Thanks for
you and take care.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having us.
having us.
Okay.
Thank you.
And don't
Bye.
forget, this is Our World Media, where your news reflects you and your community. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.